Hello everybody, in this video I am going to walk you through how to do child's pose. And for child's pose, most of you are going to need a bolster, or you might want a couple of cushions if you don't have a bolster. And we will go on to explain why very soon. So what we're going to do for child's pose, and I'll just demonstrate this to you without the bolster to start with. We are going to come to a kneeling position and we're going to have our knees and our feet together, and we sort of roll ourselves up into a ball like this. Lots of people have done child's pose before. However, the way that I teach child's pose is different to how you might have done it in yoga and things like that. So generally speaking, I'm seeing child's pose as predominantly a foot exercise, as well as a hip and spinal exercise as well. But for me, the feet here are the foundation, and the feet are the most important thing, and that is where the bolster and the cushions come into it. So for most people, when they do a child's pose, when they sit back on their ankles like this, can you see here how my ankles have come apart, but my toes are touching? There is nothing wrong with this, but this is a really passive position of the foot, and it makes it a lot easier. And as you might be learning, I like to make things difficult. And the way that we're going to make child's pose way more difficult for ourselves is if we are focusing on trying to keep our toes, our ankles, and our knees together like this. So as I come backwards, if I go beyond this point, my ankles are going to come apart. And because I want to prioritize keeping my ankles together so that we really focus on lengthening the front of the ankle and the foot in plantar flexion, I am probably going to need to keep my bottom higher so that my ankles don't fall apart. As my plantar flexion, which is the movement here that we're doing at our feet, as my range of movement in plantar flexion improves, I would, technically speaking, be able to go back, keeping my ankles and my toes together and keeping myself in that rounded ball. But whilst I don't have that range of movement at my feet, this is where I'm going to put the bolster underneath my bottom like so. So by raising the surface that I'm doing the child's pose on, I'm giving myself a better chance of doing it functionally. Hopefully at this point it goes without saying that we are not attempting to do child's pose if this hurts our knees. So if you get yourself into a kneeling position and your knees are creaking and complaining at you, no, I don't want you putting padding under your knees. That's you pain-killing sensations that your body wants you to feel. And here we mustn't force ourselves into positions that our body doesn't want us to do. It's a disrespect. We're not listening and appreciating what the pain is trying to tell us. You might want to try with the cushions or the bolster underneath your legs like this. Having your bottom up higher might take the strain off your knees, and that would be absolutely fine. Because you're not hiding the strain, you're changing the thing that would be causing the strain. So give it a go coming up a bit higher, but if your knees are still complaining at you, this is just not the exercise for you to do. So I brought my bottom up higher because that makes it easier to really focus on my feet here. So I'm keeping my big toe joints, my ankles and my knees together. And I'm really focusing on keeping my ankles together because you're going to find and feel how they want to draw themselves apart. And for some of you, even though this doesn't really look very much like a child's pose at all, this might just be where you want to stay. If you feel an incredible amount of work happening through your feet, you might notice that your feet are cramping, you might notice that your calves are switching on, you might notice that your inner thighs are switching on. Great. If there is tons going on here, just stay here and really practice keeping the big toe joints, keeping the ankles, keeping the knees together. And you're trying to basically flatten the top of your foot and the front of your ankle as much as possible on the floor. So the weight of your body bearing down is going to help you do that. And then the height that you're at is going to make you do that in a more sort of manageable, controlled way. Like I said earlier, if we take this away and we come down and my feet, you can see here that I'm restricted. If I go further than that, my ankles are going to come apart. I don't want the ankles coming apart to allow your bum to come down. your ankles are your priority. So we're going to keep you wherever you need to be in order to keep those ankles together. And then what we are going to do is we're going to keep our bottom on the surface that we're on, tuck our head under into a sort of rounded ball position. My palms are going to go facing up and my arms to the side. And I'm just going to stay here. So I'm breathing. I'm breathing nice and calmly. I'm breathing into my nose. Breathing into the back of my ribs using my diaphragm. So I'm trying to get out of my mouth. I'm trying to get out of my neck. I'm trying to get out of my sort of chest breathing and really stimulate the bottom of the rib cage. Being in child's pose like this is a great opportunity to really focus on breathing through your back body and your side body. So lots of us breathe really badly, and lots of us only think that we can breathe into our kind of front body, like the front of our ribs, the front of our belly. But actually, it's a kind of 360-degree range of motion. I want your breath pushing out sideways as well as pushing out backwards. I'm relaxed here. So my head is tucked so I can keep the back of my neck long. I'm really trying to create as much length through the back of my neck as possible. So I'm rolling my head under and I'm on the top of it. My palms are facing upwards. My shoulders and my arms are relaxing. I'm trying to keep both of my butt cheeks level on the thing that I'm sat on. So if you've got one hip that flexes better than the other, or one foot that plantar flexes better than the other, you might notice that you're tipping towards the side that flexes better. So just make sure that you feel that your butt cheeks and your weight distribution is even through both of your feet and through both of your hips. Really breathing here. If the pressure on your head gets too much, you absolutely can bring your head up a little bit and put a cushion underneath your head, because the pressure is not so much pain. It's more that because your bottom is up high, you're going to be having more of a load on your head than you would be if you had that full range of movement at your foot and your bottom was on your heels. So basically everything pelvis upwards here should be relaxed. The head and the neck is relaxed, the jaw is relaxed, your breathing is powerful but relaxed, your arms and your shoulders are relaxed. But what you're hopefully going to notice is that the effort of keeping your toes, your ankles, your knees together may really, really, really wake up your feet and your calves, but also possibly your inner thighs and your hips as well. So the movement and the thing that we're doing here at our feet may stimulate muscles all the way up to the pelvis. And this can be a great exercise for pelvic balance, hip balance and function, and also foot function. But we're also curling our spine into spinal flexion as well. So we're sort of lengthening our entire spine into a rounded shape. After a few minutes of doing that, so typically I'd recommend that you hold child's pose for like 3 to 5 minutes. After a few minutes of doing that, or perhaps after a few weeks of repetition, you then might want to try and reduce the thing that you're sitting on. So I've definitely got a little bit more range of movement now. I can't quite sit back. Or maybe I can actually. I can actually sit back on my heels, just about keeping my ankles together, but it feels like hard work. So at the point where you're able to start reducing the thing that you're sat on, this can be where you can start doing child's pose unaided, where you don't have a bolster and you don't have a cushion. But remember, your ankles staying together is your focus here. So have as many cushions or bolsters as you need to really, really focus on the feet and the ankles working super hard. And that's where you'll get this unlocking through the rest of your body.